Hello and welcome back to Monster Monday. We're doing the Giant series, and on today's episode, we've got the mighty Reavers from the north, the Frost Giants. So Frost Giants to me are like the ultimate combination of like Viking mythology coupled with giant lore, which actually a lot of that ties back to Viking mythology anyway. So I love Frost Giants because they aren't just chaotic evil like raving lunatics, and they're not like lawful necessarily, but they're just that right mix of dangerously evil, which I call neutral evil. So let's take a look at the Frost Giants and figure out how we can use them in adventures and campaigns. Gigantic Reavers from the freezing lands beyond civilization. Frost Giants are fierce, hardy warriors that survive on the spoils of their raids and pillaging. They respect only brute strength and skill in battle, demonstrating both with their scars and the grisly trophies they take from their enemies. Frost Giants are creatures of ice and snow. Their hair and beards are pale white or light blue, matted with frost and clattering with icicles. Their flesh is as blue as glacial ice. Frost Giants dwell in high peaks and glacial rifts where the sun hides its golden head by winter. Crops don't grow in their frozen homelands, and they keep little livestock beyond what they capture in their raids against civilized lands. They hunt the wild game of the tundra and mountains, but don't cook it since meat from a fresh kill tastes sufficiently hot to their palate. The war horns of the Frost Giants howl as they march from their ice fortresses and glacial rifts amid the howling blizzard. When that storm clears, villages and steadings lay in ruins. Inns and taverns suffer the brunt of the damage, their cellars gutted and their casks of ale and mead gone. Smithies are likewise toppled, their iron and steel claimed. Curiously undisturbed are the houses of moneylenders and wealthy citizens, for the Reavers have little use for coins or baubles. So I want to take a pause right here because some great hints at how we can employ the Frost Giants have been revealed in this tasty text provided by your legally purchased monster manual. I think, again, just to reiterate, like the idea of that, like, you know, just mythical kind of, you know, Viking barbaric approach to life where they're just out reaving and pillaging and raiding. These are not resourceful farmers. They are not keepers of livestock. They are not, you know, the kind of refined nobility of the Cloud Giant. These are straight up badasses. They are metal. They are metal and hardcore. They take what they need and then they go back to their places. Now, I think when I read this part, what I thought of as an adventure seed, just planting the seed, okay? And this could be, you know, at a mid-level kind of thing leading up to more high-level encounters. But just planting the seed by having your adventuring party come across a ruined settlement, village, town, kind of in the north, wherever your setting has a north cold land, and having this, you know, having maybe very few survivors, if any at all, but having like these, as they said, like these noble houses and residences that were untouched, and yet seemingly the inn or taverns, multiple, were attacked, and the blacksmiths were smashed and raided and looted. I think having that as kind of what the scene is, planting the seed for your adventurers to come across this in their travels, would be a great way to kind of hint at the existence of these Frost Giants in the greater region, right? Now, maybe there weren't witnesses because you're probably asking, like, well, Bill, like, why would it be a mystery about who did this? The survivors would know. Okay, maybe they wouldn't, because the nobles and normal people would have been cowering in their homes, terrified of the sounds at night that they heard, of the smashing sounds and the roars of these giants, and they cowered and hid, so they don't know quite what did this. So if you want to kind of like a little bit more of a mystery which needs to be investigated and followed up, because then your party, if they're crafty, they'll do some investigation of these sites, and they'll start to uncover clues, and you can deliver these clues, like, well, when you go through the inn, you find, plenty of food and the utensils and plates and gold from the innkeeper's desk, which was smashed, but like gold and silver coins and stuff. But curiously, you don't find any of the casks of ale or mead, and all of that stuff seems to be gone. Not smashed, not with spillage, but just gone. And likewise at the blacksmiths, you can say, the blacksmith shop's roof has been torn off, and the display shelves have been smashed, and the blacksmith's forge was just crushed. The bricks around the fire and the baffles, destroyed. But ironically, you see, several bows and arrows, quivers and arrows and bows that were in this weapon shop are still there. You see some leather whips, and basically describe like, wooden cudgels, whatever. But all of the metallic weapons, all the iron weapons seem to be gone. With those little hints and this investigation, now you cultivate a mystery, which I think is a great way to kind of introduce this. Now, conversely, if your gaming group is not really down with any kind of mystery, that's an unfortunate thing. But let's say that they want to, roll dice and kill things. Then have them be in this town. Have them have just arrived in this, northern kind of town. And maybe they're in the inn when they hear these roars outside at night, and they hear smashing a couple blocks away, and just thunderous sounds and just the smashing of buildings. And maybe your high-level party, in this instance, maybe wants to go out and find out what's going on, and this is when they see this frost giant raiding party. Which, when you think about the size of a frost giant, man, you don't need a lot of those to do some damage. So you're looking at also an opportunity to scale the encounter. Let's say you have a competent group of mid-level adventurers, like I'm talking like levels 6 through 8, 6 through 9, and they're veteran players, they know how to play their characters effectively, and you feel like they could take on a couple, 2, maybe 3 frost giants. You could scale down the frost giants and make them slightly weaker, and then have them be the raiding party that they encounter, right? And maybe even the frost giants, maybe the party takes out one of the frost giants and the other 2 just finish their smash and grabs and rob this town and they leave, right? Like let's say you're DMing this and your 2 or 3 frost giants are just whooping ass on the party, and you're kind of worried about a TPK. You can create in the narrative a reason why they decide not to just wipe out the party, because they take their stuff and they leave. They're raiders, right? They're not there to decimate the entire town. They're just there to get what they need and get out. You could, at a higher level, obviously keep the stats in the book, and you could certainly just add more frost giants to that party, right? So there's your encounter, whether it's mid or low or high level. And then also kind of how you can stretch this out into adventure is obviously you have multiple kind of plot points where you can encourage a party to investigate further by providing tracks. You guys, while you're roll perception, roll investigation, roll survival, you notice that there's these tracks that kind of head north out of town towards the tundra and the mountains to the north. And then, maybe they're a curious party, they want to know more, and they go investigate, they follow the tracks. And this leads them back to this, mountainous or tundra kind of fortress of these frost giants, where they discover that these frost giants have been, holing up here. Maybe they do some recon, maybe they kind of try to sneak in and find out what's going on, what's in there. Or maybe they just Leroy Jenkins right into the fortress and, and they try to take on, 6 frost giants. You can provide and flesh out more things about the domain and the fortress of these frost giants to entice the players to go there. Or let's say you don't have a particularly curious or motivated party and they're not taking the bait, then maybe the noble, the noblest of the noble, the lord or magistrate in this town that just got robbed, smashed and grabbed, raided, whatever, is willing to hire the party to go and go back to this, track down these frost giants and burn down their fortress. Okay. Variation number 3 or 4, I've lost track. Maybe in the course of the pillaging, the frost giants have hit more than one town. So maybe this first town is just a starter, right? And then the party's not really interested in engaging with frost giants. That's fine. Then you have the noble, basically hire them to find a missing expedition. That the king himself financed this expedition to the mountains in the north because there used to be this dwarven mining kingdom that was abandoned long ago, mysteriously, like over decades, maybe centuries. No one ever really found out why the dwarves that used to be so prosperous there and used to trade with all of the local towns in the northern region, why they disappeared, and this king has commissioned an expedition and hired several, scholars as well as, scouts and rangers and whatnot and some fighting men to go into the tundra and into the mountains and find this lost dwarven mine and city. You might be saying, well, that's kind of a cliche, Bill. That's basically, the Drist adventures with Brunner and finding his clan's kingdom. Yeah, that's fine. Most of your party might know that, or they won't. But either way, you're not going to use the same names. So just steal the ideas from that and incorporate them into your own world. That's called synthesis, and it's a form of creativity that you should use. So you have this setup, and now the party may be more invested because they're going to get paid. Oh, and by the way, the Lord says that according to the king's contract, that the people who can find the expedition will be paid, and they can keep anything that they find along the way, with the exception of any wealth if they manage to find the dwarven mines. That is claimed. This puts your party into an interesting position because they may want to go explore. And what do we have? What do we find along the way? And by the way, along the way shouldn't just be like, all right, you guys travel for 2 days and you're there. Throw all the different snow monsters at them. Just, and throw the epic elements of survival in a frozen waste at them. If they're unprepared, if they don't have furs and blankets and bedrolls or spells to keep them warm, if they don't have enough food and water, throw them yetis, throw them all the different snow monsters, ice mephits, whatever, polar bears. But, give them challenges, survival challenges, monster encounters. Maybe they get lost. Maybe there's a blizzard. Oh, how fun this adventure will be as this adventure turns into a campaign. And this could be multiple sessions to finally get to the mountains. And then they get to the mountains and they have to explore now, because exploration is a part of role-playing games and D&D. They have to explore and they have to make, various skill checks and knowledge checks. And maybe some hazards come along the way, and like a glacial rift happens and they fall into this ice rift and blah, blah, blah. But then eventually they find the location to the entrance, and it's, maybe covered with like ice and boulders and stuff. They have to excavate it. But they find the expedition, like the base camp for the expedition, but it's like totally like abandoned and scary. And they're like, where is everybody? And they don't know. They just find like, this like primitive wooden structure that they built at the base camp, and some tents where the flaps are just flapping in the wind. Now, here's another idea. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's The Thing, the original movie with Kurt Russell, you should watch that. Now, even though that's kind of a horror sci-fi thing, see, you could take those ideas and incorporate that to make your motifs about the base camp scary. Like, what took out everybody? Who knows? Was it an alien? No, it was the frost giants. Because I'm bringing it full circle. I'm on fire today. Wait, frost giants. So here's what I'm saying. You get the party there, right? Now maybe they picked up a level or two along the way in this epic northern regional campaign. But when they get there, they're going to find out what wiped out the dwarves. It was the frost giants, man. They came in. The frost giants came in and took those dwarves out and took all their ore and traded it to some other smarter giants who know how to make weapons for them. And now they have like this badass frost giant fortress on the mountaintop, like above where the dwarven mines were, you know? And they're pissed off that all these humanoids are coming to like explore the area. The frost giants were the ones that took out the expedition. But maybe they didn't kill everybody. Oh, surprise twist again. Maybe they captured the expedition and they brought them up into the fortress and they use them as like slaves and entertainment. It could be cruel or it could be like practical. Maybe they use like the humanoids to like do tasks for them that they want done. Or maybe the scholars are like researching things for the frost giants. Who knows? You see how you could just go from like one simple thing. That's why I call it a seed. One simple little encounter into an adventure, into multiple adventures that have a huge impact in your campaign. Juicy. Here's another thing for influence, for stimulation. Look at Viking mythology, man. Like look up, the Norse mythology, but also like just look up like, the different Viking tribes and stuff, because I think that could be a good influence for maybe how you play out your frost giants. And even when I think of like reavers and pillagers and stuff, this doesn't have to be in a landlocked area. You could be along a sea, like you've got your ocean faring things, and maybe your frost giants even have ships, dude. Maybe they have huge frost giant ships, and they go along the coast and they pillage port cities, and then they go back up in their ships. Ooh, Or if you're a Game of Thrones fan, like the Iron Isle, like that kind of approach. Oh, there's so many good options. I told you I love frost giants, man. Frost giants are the business, and you should use them. Let's just go back for a minute to talk a little bit more about their culture, and then we'll look at stat blocks. Frost giants respect brute strength above all else, and a frost giant's place in the ordning depends on evidence of physical might, such as superior musculature, scars from battles, trophies fashioned from the bodies of slain enemies. That's so badass. Tusks. Oh, I'm sorry. I read the word as, it's actually tasks such as hunting, child rearing, and crafting are given to giants based on their physical strength and hardiness. But you know what? Tusks could be a cool trophy too, because if your frozen waste has like woolly mammoths and stuff, and these dudes hunt. They hunt big game. So maybe they have like tusks, like badass, like, imagine like a bridge, an icy bridge that goes over the moat, which wouldn't have water, but it would have something scary living in there, some ice serpent or whatever, ice devils, but they have a bridge, and the archway of the bridge is all like mammoth tusks. Ooh, just get into it, man. I love that description. Make war, not goods. Though frost giants consider the menial crafting of goods beneath them, carving and leatherwork are valued skills. Oh, they make their clothing from the skins and bones of beasts, and carve bone or ivory into jewelry and the handles of weapons and tools. Oh, maybe the captured expedition, like maybe they have some of those people like working almost like a sweatshop situation, but it would be a freezing shop, but like maybe they have them doing some tasks to like refine some of their things, Or it's just like menial tasks, like scrape the sinew and blood and tissue off of these skins for us and cure these skins so that we can craft our clothing, like crap work, but these captured people maybe are still alive. So your party of adventurers, maybe when they're doing their recon of the palace, of the fortress, they see like one or two of these, humanoid people, and they're like, what? Oh, who is that? They reuse the weapons and armor of their smaller foes, stringing shields into scale armor. Oh, so they're not dummies. And lashing sword blades to wooden hafts to make giant-sized spears. The greatest battle trophies come from conquered dragons, and the greatest frost giant jarls wear armor of dragon scales or wield picks and mauls made of dragon's teeth or claws. Jarls. How could I have forgotten Skyrim? Oh, yeah, steal some Skyrim stuff and throw it into the mix. There's your frost giants, buddy. So good. So very cool. So metal. Frost giants, stat blocks. They have a armor class of 15, parentheses, patchwork armor. But you know what? Don't just say like, you see frost giants. Be descriptive. Use those kind of descriptive phrases. You know, this to describe like the beard, and maybe they have like their beard braided with like various bone, you know, carvings like kind of hanging as weights from the tips of their beard braids, and describe their armor as like shields where you see 6 different militia insignias faded, though still evident on the shields that make up their scaled armor. You know, and maybe you can even personalize this. You could have like one of the captured members of the expedition who was like a renowned fighter and maybe had like a very well-known sword that had a very specific design. That dude's sword is now like lashed to a big wood pole. You know, something that stands out to the party to make this personal. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, damn, you just went there. Hit points is a 12d12 plus 60. So 144 and 60 is 204 at the max. That's not really bad because they're challenge rating 8, 204 hit points maxed out, right? But again, as always, if you want to scale your frost giants, just drop their hit points down a little bit. Or if you want to make them a little more badass, give them a little more armor class. Or drop their armor class down if you need to scale it down. Very easy flexors right there. The AC and the HP, you can adjust those to meet the expectations, to make it challenging but not ensure a TPK, you know what I mean? And by the way, you could do that individually. So you could have some like weaker frost giants with lower hit points and lame armor in the fortress, and then have your badasses who are like kind of maxed out. Boom. They have a lot of strength. Good Lord, do they have a lot of strength. 23 strength. They have proficiency in athletics and perception. I guess that's important from a DM perspective, because if you have people trying to like sneak into the fortress to rescue and free the imprisoned expedition members, you know, having some perceptive frost giants and making those rolls is probably going to be important. They have a passive perception of 13. Their languages are giant. So bear that in mind when you're DMing these, because if your party's doing like recon and surveillance and they hear the giants talking to each other, unless one of them speaks giant, you should not say what they're saying. You should make some gargledy, you know, for me, giant language should be like some mashup of like, you know, Norse, Germanic, you know, hard consonants like Ugenklaken, Schnackluga blah, Glego Schlablevri. I just made up all those syllables, you know, just a lot of consonants and that kind of stuff. Let's look at their badass attacks. The giant makes 2 great axe attacks. Now that doesn't mean that you have to say that every giant has a great axe. Describe, make them different. Even if you just have basic notes on you know 6 of the frost giants that live there, like talk about what they look like, describe that to your players vividly, talk about their weapons. Maybe one of them does have a great axe, but another one might have a double-ended, you know, spear that has like 2 long swords on each end, and that's how it attacks. That it, you know, it created from the captured, and then maybe one has like dragon fang daggers, you know. But this is the recommended attacks, right? So 2 attacks. The great axe is plus 9 to hit, reach of 10 feet, 3d12 plus 6 slashing damage, and then they give you the rock attack, which is throw a rock. But again, feel free to flex that rock attack out with a massive spear. Maybe they're just throwing these spears that they've made. If you do the Reaver variation, where you have frost giants on big ships that go up and down the coast and just raid port cities. Maybe those dudes actually have giant crossbows, or giant bows, just roof, and they have more ranged effectiveness than just like rocks. These guys are not absolute dummies. I mean, they're not geniuses, but like they have a 9 intelligence. They can function, So I would think that in their lust for war, that they would be adaptable and they would have varieties of weapons. So don't be afraid to change what's in the book to suit the adventure and the style and the region of your setting, wherever that might be. Okay, a couple more off-the-top ideas that I wanted to share with you guys before I close out this video. Some people will say, I'm sure they'll say, like, while they're watching this video, Bill, I like all this stuff, but I don't really have a setting where there's like a snowy northern tundra frozen area. My setting is all in like, a warm climate. Okay, fine. Let me drop this on you. Bear in mind what I said about the Reavers, right? So let's say you don't have a snowy area, but you do have an ocean or some kind of means of travel through water, right? Then bring the frost giants to your land. Maybe something happened, some climactic thing that drove, and I kind of use this with my Dragon series things, so if you're interested, you can go back and watch that, but maybe a big meteor hit the frozen north and disrupted the climate there and melted, all the snow and caused this global warming effect in their microclimate and drove them out. And now they're on their ships and they're come from the land of the ice and snow, and now they're coming to your Mediterranean climate. And they don't have a home to go back to. So they're gonna come and hit that port city hard and boom, all in, wipe it out, take what they want and move to some place and start building a defensive location. So if you don't have a frozen area in your lands or it's too far away from where your campaign is set, bring the frost giant to your game. Just all you need is that narrative mechanic, that narrative reason for why they would be there. And the players don't even have to know that. They don't have to know. If they're like, well, why are they here? Be like, I don't know. Why don't you find out in game? Why doesn't your character try to find out? And maybe, just crazy maybe they try to infiltrate the giant society and find out from the giants. Or maybe they're able to, fend off a raiding party of 2 giants or 3 giants, and they're, instead of killing, they actually subdue and capture one of them. And in the course of interrogation, they find out why the giants have come. Oh, see? Well, I feel like this was a kick-ass episode, and I hope you do too. So I'm going to ask you to do several things for me right now. Number 1, if you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe. It literally doesn't cost you anything. Number 2, like this video because that's important and it helps. Also doesn't cost you anything. Number 3, if you could take 30 seconds to write a comment below this video, I would love to hear your stories. If you're a DM, how have you used frost giants before? Or if you're a player, how have you encountered frost giants in your game? I love to read these comments. I love to respond to them, and so do the rest of the people in the community. So thank you as always, you guys, for tuning in to Monster Monday, and we'll see you on the next episode. Come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun with the hot springs glow.
Hello, mate. Thanks for watching all the videos. Make sure that you look up there and subscribe. And don't forget to check out some of the other videos, like them up there or those down there. We'll see you next time.